I believe by default, we are all lazy in some shape, form, or fashion. Now, the problem is that some of us put in maximum effort in physical activities, in our jobs, and in certain things, and we take that one isolated kind of situation where we're not lazy and we try to kind of blanket cover everything in our life to say that we're not lazy, when in reality, all of us are lazy. By default, we're naturally lazy because we're fallen. This is the Warrior Up Podcast. I'm George Webby, and we're going to talk a little bit today about how to recognize and eradicate laziness in our life. So, every day for the past 6 years, give or take a couple months, I've tried to and been pretty faithful, God's grace, to read a chapter from the book of Proverbs every single day, according to the day of the month. So, for instance, today is the 26th. So the 26th chapter was what was read. And so in the 26th chapter, there's a discussion about slothfulness, being lazy. And what's interesting there is I think it gives us a pretty good understanding of how to recognize laziness and even by the recognition of how to eradicate it. So it opens the gates in chapter 26 by talking about there is a lion in the streets, I'll be slain. And I think this speaks directly to our excuse making, that we always find this crazy excuse for why we don't do things, either to ourselves, we'll say it, or to others. We'll overshoot the reason why we do what we do or fail to do what we need to do, right? And I think what we're doing here is we're trying to over justify it. And there's a reason for that. So as an indication, I can recognize if I find a tendency to justify why I do something or don't do something, and I have to overshoot it in order to sell it, most likely I'm being lazy. Do you do that? I think you do. I do it. And we need to recognize and go, okay, I'm being lazy in this situation. Another lesson from 26 is it says that the slothful person, the lazy person, when they're laying in their bed, they turn like a door hinge. They, go their back to their side or to their back. And I think this speaks to the fact that there's minimum effort in things. If you find that you do stuff, you're not lazy, but yet you do the least amount of effort possible in doing that there is a spirit of laziness inside that activity. Another thing it talks about is that the slothful person will put their hand into a bowl to feed themselves and then are wearied to bring their hand to their mouth. I believe this speaks to the fact that we like the idea of effort, so we start things, but then when we get halfway there or a little bit into it, we realize the effort required to finish things, and so we don't even want to pull our hand back to our mouth. So if you find in your life that you are starting things and not finishing them because it wearies you, then there's probably an element and a spirit of laziness there. And then last but not least, in this section of 26, it talks about how a lazy person will justify themselves so much that even if seven wise counselors are telling them different, it doesn't matter. They are fully convinced. And so it's like, even when all these other people are trying to convince us of things to show us the error of our ways or maybe how we should do something different, if we're still justifying things in our mind about how we're doing it, there's probably an element of laziness there, pride. So what do we do about this? Why do we do that? First of all, we do that because we're fallen. Not to get too spiritually deep on you, but why not? If we go back to Genesis, the curse that Adam experienced was from the sweat of his brow, he will feed himself. That was part of his curse, is that his efforts just to feed himself are going to cause hardship. He's going to have to experience trauma in some kind of way to do the most mundane thing to just his own existence. And so there's going to be a tendency to half-step that. And here's the reason, is because the relationship that Adam had with God beforehand, all work was a blessing. See, work was not something what we were cursed with. The attitude towards work is the curse, the ramifications of that. And so if we look at work as something I have to do, then naturally we're going to look for ways to get out of that work, whatever that work is. Relationships, your job, your fitness, your mentality, your spirituality. There's all kind of things that we need to be doing. And if we look at it as things that we have to do, then we're going to look for ways to get out of it. Instead, in the Lord, we need to look at it like this. It's not something I have to do, but it's something I get to do in the Lord. And I get to work that out with him. I get to be excited about the power and the energy and the effort and the connection that I have through him, through my efforts in all areas of my life. And so that is how we can eradicate laziness, is because we change our mindset concerning it. We renew our mind. We look at things as not something I have to do, but something I get to do. All right, guys, I hope this edifies you. I hope it encourages you. I hope it helps you to recognize laziness in your life and how to eradicate it by changing your attitude towards the efforts that you need to give. As always, if you like the content, you think it's something valuable that others should hear about, like, share, comment on it, both in social media and on the YouTube channel, and subscribe. I appreciate you. God be with you. Stay in the fight. Peace.